When we were young, 2024, all album plays, 57 records that we have heard, ones we have not heard. But here at the Emo Social Club, we are listening to all 57 of them so that we go into the festival knowing all of them.
Yeah, we're going to be the ultimate people to flex.
In this episode, we are reviewing Alesana's The Emptiness. Before we get into our opinions and our thoughts on this record, Lizzie, tell us a little bit about The Emptiness and Alesana.
This is Alesana's third album. Came out on Fearless Records on January 26, 2010. It's considered a rock opera because it's a detailed story concept album. This obviously took a heavy inspiration from Edgar Allan Poe, the main character being Annabelle Lee. The name of this tour that they ran for this album was called You'd Be Cuter in a Coffin, which honestly, that is a pretty cute title.
In 2010?
Yeah. That's pretty. What do you mean? That's such a cute little. Okay, whatever. But that was supposed to be the title track, the very first track on this album. But instead, it was changed to Curse of the Virgin Canvas. The singles off of this album was To Be Scared by an Owl and The Thespian. It's debuted at 68 on the Billboard 200 charts. The band went through also a lot of member changes from the second album to this album, and I was trying to follow along as to who was swapped, but the main conclusion I came to is that there's 5 singers in this.
There are 3 guitarists and 3 singers, I believe. When I first heard of Alesana, that's how AP Magazine listed them and described it, is there's 3 guitarists and 3 singers. Main singer, lead singer, Shawn Milke is also a guitarist. And then, there's 2 other dudes that scream in the background.
Yeah, there's a lot of them on there.
There's way too many people in this band.
This is 50 minutes.
We're rounding up. It's 50. It's 46.
We're rounding up. It's 50 minutes.
It's a rock opera.
How are we fitting this in to the set times that when we were young, Fess? When will it end? Is my next question.
We are going to get into our thoughts on this record, but before we do, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe down below. We are doing all 57 reviews of all 57 records. We have a playlist down in the description. Make sure that you are following our channel to know when all of these come up. We also have full versions of these episodes, cut content, behind the scenes stuff, extra reviews, all types of stuff. You can become a member here on YouTube, or you can also check out our Patreon. All the links are below, whatever you prefer. It's cheap. It's $1. You get to see a little bit more of us. You get to hear a little bit more from us. Lizzie, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah, okay.
Would you rate your feeling on this record as positive?
It's middle of the ground.
Would you rate your feeling on this record as negative?
I'm pretty middle of the road with it.
I feel like maybe you should go first. I feel like maybe you should go first.
All right. Here are my thoughts on Alesana's The Emptiness. I never listened to Alesana, but they were big when I was in high school. This is my time in high school. I had a lot of friends who really liked Alesana. And I remember specifically one of my former friends in high school, she had this really cool Alesana shirt. And I remember it was a pink-red octopus dismantling a ship, and it had indigo purple and everything. It was just so cool. I was oh, that's such a hard fucking shirt. I remember seeing that all the time, and I'm oh, that's so cool. And then during the time, I was oh, I can't wear the shirt because I don't listen to the band. So I was okay, not going to Hot Topic and scooping it. But I never really listened to them, and I never during the time, I think my friend played a song for them for me, and I wasn't really into that type of metalcore screamo. But now I listen to a lot of that type of stuff. I am a spooky bitch at heart. So when they were this is about Edgar Allan Poe. Oh, homie. I love a little story. That's my shit right there. I liked it decently enough. It wasn't something I would probably really go back and fully re-listen to outside of this. It was fine. I think what they did for the time was very adventurous. You don't really have a lot of explanation as to really what's going on. And because there's just kind of a lot going on with a lot of these songs, vocally, I feel you're going to miss this larger story, because breaking it down, there was a lot of interviews I was reading through that explained what this was. I'm that's so cool. If I didn't read that, I don't know if I really would understand what's going on here, if I'm being for real, my guys. But I think that's a fault. Maybe if they came out with an album and it was cleaned up better now, and that we had a similar storyline like that, it would be better and more detailed, and also not as long. We would be having a great time. We'd be having a great time. These are my top songs from Alesana's The Emptiness. I did like The Murderer. This is where I really get a good idea on the theatrical part of this album. I start to hear all the different noises. I'm like, okay, I get what you're putting down here. Until then, I'm just like, okay, we're screaming. I love screaming, but what's the story here? Like, what's going on? This really helped me understand it a little bit more. You do start to hear a lot of other vocals, screams, and melodies. It helps push the story along. So it helped keep me engaged a little bit longer. My second one was Heavy Hangs the Albatross. The screams are more abrasive here. I like more abrasive screams, so this stood out to me. The clean vocals have this flair. They're singing melodically, but then it has this almost like hook at the end, almost like they're asking a question or they're really hoarse, asking for help or something. And I think that's so interesting. It lends to the story more. It's more engaging of a track. It's something that I'm like, oh yeah, like this is good. It's also a little bit more attainable. My third was The Lover. This was the only track on this album that I was cleaning my bathroom. And I like came outside and I said, I was listening to it then for another minute or so. And I said, okay, like I like this. Like, let me hit like track on Spotify. That was the only song on this album that made me do this. This has a lot more deeper screams. It's more approachable. You can understand, again, the story better. This was much more catchy and easygoing compared to the other songs on the album. If you wanted to have somebody who never listened to Alesana before, and who's in the scene, but maybe this is much heavier than what they're used to, it's a lot more easily digestible. And again, like, these are the top 3 ones that really helps me understand the story here, which made everything just fall in line a little bit better in between. My least favorite track from Alesana's The Emptiness, Annabelle. Why was this so long? It did not need to be 7 minutes and 20 seconds. I was cleaning my bathroom. I went to my living room and I'm like, is this song over yet? It just kept going. I don't know why it kept going. Then I heard probably around like the 4.5, 5 minute mark, where I'm like, oh, it sounds like it's wrapping up. Like, this is a cool ending. And it just keeps, I'm like, why are we bringing the guitars back in?
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. This is type 5. Wrap it the fuck up. Let's go. Like, I understand you're wrapping up everything. And the thing that they did here too, which executed better, great. It probably would have been a fantastic song that didn't make me go, please end this. They put in and layer in all these different sounds into this final track that they have done throughout the entire album. So you have these different screams, you have the different theatrical sounds and themes as well. So they're able to build this stage in your mind of like, this is the final act. Cool, awesome. It's not layered properly to really be nice on the ear. And I know we're talking about metalcore, all right? Some people are gonna be like, it's not good on the ear. Shut up, okay? If I had headphones, I probably would be like, this isn't for me. And again, it was just so long for no reason. Cut it up into 2 separate tracks at that point. Annabelle 1, Annabelle 2. I don't know. Have Annabelle and then have Lee. Annabelle Lee. There, you're done.
There you go.
Fixed it.
Fixed your problem.
Part of your problem.
These are my thoughts on Alesana's The Emptiness. I had a lot of friends when Alesana was on Warped Tour off their first record who really liked this band. And I have long said that Alesana is the worst band from this time period. This is the band that is objectively last in line.
That's crazy.
The only song they have that is worth listening to is Ambrosia, which is actually like kind of catchy and is at least interesting enough for what Alesana wants to do with 3 guitars and 3 vocalists and all that. That's the only one where they do it at all well. The fact that they have that many people in the band is way too much. Yeah. It is just way too much that's going on with this band. They're all trying to have their moment and it just doesn't sound good. It just isn't a good sound to hear when you are listening to a sound. They cannot write songs very well. It just sounds like local band level noise that they made trying to sound like a generic post-hardcore band in pursuit of sounding like other bands.
Oh shit, you went in.
They are just making all of these noises that other bands made and then saying, I am just like these bands. And it's like, no, you're not. These bands made songs. You made noise that sounds like these songs.
During that time too, is that was the explosion of those same types of bands. After I finished listening to that album and went on just Spotify radio of similar acts, I really couldn't tell you when one ended and one started.
So that is me going into this record. That is my thoughts and opinions of Alesana and the songs that I have heard and the sounds that they have made going into this. And I went in fully expecting to hate it. And I do.
I'm not surprised.
It is not as bad as a lot of the other stuff that I heard from them on the first two records, but there is so much here that I just absolutely do not like. And I listened to this maybe 5 or 6 times
really?
To try. I gave this every opportunity I could.
Shit.
I was listening to specific songs. I was listening to it out of order. I would shuffle it. There is so much bad stuff on this record.
At least you really tried.
For the next 45 minutes. I'm not serious. I thought about it. I thought about going so unrelentingly hard on this because I objectively think this record is awful and trash.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I have to prove that to you. I have to let you know exactly why so that no one's in the comments saying, oh gosh, he just hates on something. This album's really good though. It's like, here is a fucking thesis if you need it. If you need to read it, you're not going to care, but here's a fucking thesis for you. I decided against it because fuck you. I don't have to prove no shit to you. I'm right, you're wrong. I don't give a fuck. Get a podcast.
Get a podcast.
Mics are not that expensive. The lyrics on this record are absolute trash. The storyline that they're taking of Edgar Allan Poe is so immature in their reading of Poe and then regurgitating it out to make a record of it. It is a firm misunderstanding of the point of doing like gothic poetry and then taking that and making an album out of it or a story out of it. Every interlude on this is just so unlikable. There is so much of the characters talking to each other, and it is the most like 8-year-old who feels like it's deep to talk in like a low monotone voice and explain the story. It's like, oh my God, have a personality. Your main character of the story is unlikable. I don't think Edgar Allan Poe made his character unlikable. I'm pretty sure you like a lot of the characters in Poe, which is why you start to feel some empathy for the bad shit that starts happening to them, even when they did the bad shit. He's a good writer. Alesana is not. There are way too many words on this record. Every line has way too many lyrics in it. It has way too many words. All the interludes have way too many words. I was listening to some where it's like, some may say that it feels like this. I'm like, all you said was she's dead, and you took 45 words to say it.
Word salad.
That's annoying. There are almost no choruses in this record. I know they're there. I heard them in the songs, and I'm like, what the fuck is the chorus? What the fuck is the chorus in this song? I could not sing you a chorus right now, and I listened to the record 6 times. That's insane. That is bad writing. That is awful.
Damn, he's on to business now.
Just letting you know that my watch has told me that I've hit 10,000 steps.
I'm so happy that you're
shaking.
just like,
yeah. Shawn Milke has always had an interesting voice. The interesting about it is like some of the lines that he does in his like timbre and tone to it, but he just doesn't do anything that's really catchy or melodic. A lot of it blends together. It just sort of sounds like nothing. Like there's no idea behind it. You're trying to sound like other singers who wrote a melody. It's like you don't really know what you want to sing. It's kind of just coming out and it sounds like this, I guess. The screams, the worst lyrics on this record are whatever they're screaming. Every time I looked up what they're screaming in the lyrics, it is the worst part of this. It is the dumbest shit I have ever heard. And I was like annoyed by it.
Can you read us one? Do you have one?
Dude, I wanted to write them all down. I know
No, you didn't need to do all of them.
I was about to write down, these are my least favorite lyrics on the record, and I was like, I'm writing down every song. I can't do this. This is ridiculous.
No, Brian.
The guttural screams on this are annoying. All of the screams on this are mixed really low. So like Shawn's voice is louder and higher than everything else. And then the screams are kind of like quieter. And I found myself with headphones in, leaning in to hear them better. I was like, but this is the whole point. It's supposed to be about the storyline that you're telling. And these lyrics are being missed because they are quiet. The scream part is fine. But then as soon as I like looked them up because I'm like, what the hell are they saying? I was like, That's so dumb. That's dumb. I don't want to hear that. That's dumb. That's so dumb. Breakdowns on this record feel like they should be more prominent, and they are insanely underwhelming. There is like a clear like metalcore influence on it. I'd say this is generally more post-hardcore, more like emo leaning than like metal or metalcore.
Yeah.
But there are some parts that are breakdowns, and it just feels like, what if we just made as much noise as possible, or we just like palm muted everything and made it really quiet as these riffs, and then we just had a screamer over it that doesn't sound good. I'm like, why? Why would you do that? You're 3 records in. The guitar parts and the general like musicality of it that is not vocally driven, I thought there were some very good sections of that, which is the part of it where I'm like, I don't hate this. Like, the sound of the music itself is not the worst, but it's only when they kind of understand how to write a song with the instrumentation. The vocals are the parts that become less of a song, becomes more of just sounds and noise. The vocals have to take center stage here, which is why I felt like Shawn's voice is mixed so loudly in it. And I was like, there's definitely some concerns I have here with just the mixing and how it sounds to the ear too.
Right.
There's too much going on. There's too many people in the band. There's too many sounds that are happening at me all at once. And I'm supposed to somehow pay attention and like sift through all of this to get the story out of it. And I was like, if this was your fucking thesis statement, you failed. Untheased. I am the least theased. My top tracks from The Emptiness by Alesana. I listened to this record 6 times. And one of the reasons I listened to it 2 more times, the 5th and 6th time, was because I could not figure out what to write under my favorite songs from this record.
Oh, no.
And after the 6th time listening to it, I still had nothing. I could not say a single song on this record should even be called a favorite. Like, there was not a single song on this record where I was like, even if I had to just put this above every other song on this record, I can't. I just can't. There's nothing that I was like, this is better than anything else. They're all just not that good. And so I have no top tracks from this record. A first, ideally the last. And again, I did my work. I did my homework on this. I listened to it. I read all the lyrics to it. I tried. There is nothing on here for me.
He literally gave it the old college try and said, absolutely not.
The most I could.
I was like, you did not even have to. I listened to it twice. And I said, this, I don't got to do anymore.
My least favorite tracks from The Emptiness by Alesana.
Sheesh.
I could pick a lot. I'm going to keep it short. There's a lot of really rough lyrics and story content on here. So that was what kind of guided my thoughts on a lot of the worst parts. They also just seem to forget to make good choruses, make memorable songs, make things that I want to listen to again. They just seem to forget all of that about like what music is supposed to do for you. Every interlude is dumb. Every interlude is bad. Every interlude is stupid. I don't care to hear the edgiest teenager you've ever heard tell you about how he understood Poe in like 50 words or more. Like it sounded like someone had to do a book report on Edgar Allan Poe and was like, it's based on word count. If I don't hit 1,000 words on this record, I will not make grade. The Murderer, whenever he said, how sweet, so sweet, I was literally cringing. I was literally like upset.
That's such a visceral reaction.
I was so, how sweet. Like, what would you ever want to hear that in your ear? That was somebody trying to do, that was somebody trying to do AFI. like trying to do some shit like Davey Havok does, and just failing. It's like doing something like, oh, this'll definitely work. And like it's no one said no. This is fucking disgusting. Hymn for the Shameless, worst chorus on the record. It is. You found a chorus? It is yes, there are choruses in these. They're just not good choruses. They were not written to be good choruses. They could have been, but they just weren't. They decided against catchy choruses. This one is the biggest offender. Hymn for the Shameless is 2 minutes of the ending of the song where they repeat the chorus. It is not a good chorus, and they said, what if we did it for 2 full minutes nonstop as it fades out? What an egregious misuse of writing a song. What an offensive thing to do. Like, you know that was torture that they inflicted upon listeners of this record on purpose. In Her Tomb by the Sounding Sea had some of the catchiest parts on this record. They get completely washed away by the fact that there is so much of the same shit that they did on every other song on this record again. So when they finally are writing some parts that are really catchy, there's some like pop punk sounding things on here. There's some like good emo sounding things. There's good guitar work. There's good melody. And they're just like, never mind. Here's some shitty ass lyrics, guttural screams that don't sound good. And it just like is to me a misuse of some really good music to just be wasted with the same unlistenable bullshit you did on the rest of it. I did not like this, and I did not feel like I needed to pull any punches when I was giving my review on this. I don't care. Those were our thoughts. Those were a lot of my thoughts. We are not the only ones with thoughts. If you disagree with me, if you agree more with Lizzie, we also wanted to find more people who had other thoughts and other opinions than what we had on this record. So I went to Amazon. Lizzie found some critics that wrote about this record around release time. So we're going to read a few of those. Now, I did not care for this record. Amazon reviewers, 4.9 overall rating. There are 98 5-star ratings out of 109. So I picked 2 very positive ones. A lot of them were very short. So I picked a couple that gave a little bit more background of why they liked the record, much like what we do here. This review is by Brian Fleenor, written June 3rd, 2010. 5-star review, their best album yet. I liked On Frail Wings, and I thought When Myth Fades was a step back, mostly in the vocals department. But this one, I love. There isn't a bad track on this disc, unless you count an interlude. From beginning to end, it's just damn good. There are no tracks on here, again, minus an interlude, that I skip while listening to it. On Frail Wings, you caught a lot of the high-pitched, clean vocals, which I loved. However, when Myth Fades came out, the vocalist seemed strained. He tried to hit notes so high that they came out like a whisper and just did not feel right. On this disc, though, it's just right. The clean vocals sound completely natural and have that unusually high pitch that I love. The screaming side of the vocals are pretty much perfectly mixed with the clean. Most of the CD is clean with a chorus or small part of screaming mixed in to change it up. In some parts, the screaming is dubbed over the clean vocals, so you hear the same lyrics, but in the high and growl at the same time, which is done absolutely perfectly here where it's used. It's just an effect that I like to hear, and it's never been done as good as it is on this disc. Musically, it's still Alesana, which is a good thing. If you've liked the music on the past albums, or even just like bands that are usually grouped with them, you will like this one. The only disc I've bought in the past year or two that even comes close to being as perfect to my taste as this is Drop Dead Gorgeous's The Hot and the Heavy. I do like Drop Dead Gorgeous. If you like this one, I would suggest checking out that one too. It's more screamy, but it's the main 2 that have been in my CD player since winter. 5 stars, hands down. Best CD from beginning to end I've heard in a long time.
How do you feel about that?
Fuck you. I'm glad that people are enjoying it, and I don't want to, not shading anybody for enjoying it. Not yucking no yums out here. I am giving a full-on fucking explanation as to why I don't like it. No, you are,
and you did really try.
This review is by Stella Meadows, written April 28th, 2014, 5 stars. Easily one of the best albums I've ever heard. Now, this is the intro to the record. She has written it out here. I'm going to read it as I heard it. I'm here to tell you a story that will torture your thoughts by day and poison your dreams by night. And though I will do my best, there are no words that can be written nor brushstrokes laid on canvas that can describe the stark and utter horror of the night that Annabelle died. The emptiness will haunt you. Thus opens Alesana's The Emptiness, perhaps the greatest cohesive album I've ever listened to. There's no easy way to review this album because there's nothing quite like it. It's a concept album and far surpasses what it sets out to achieve. The Emptiness was my first foray into any kind of hardcore music. Here I use that term broadly, referring to anything with unclean vocals. 2 of my friends very enthusiastically encouraged me to listen to the album, praising its story. We listened to 2 songs while driving, but I quickly shrugged it off. I told them I didn't like music with screaming. Nearly 4 years later, after hearing my friends continue to reference the album, I relented and listened to the CD. I found myself immediately drawn in, intrigued mostly by the album's cohesive story based on Edgar Allan Poe's excellent poem Annabel Lee, which is one of his best. It was very hard for me initially. Lack of experience listening to any sort of music of this kind meant that I had to consort the lyrics frequently to understand what Dennis Lee was screaming. But the lyrics were marvelous. I quickly found that I couldn't get enough of this album. It was too dark, too chilling, and too bittersweet to let go of. It helped that the songs were all remarkably catchy too. Could anybody have written a review that is more the exact opposite of everything that I said?
What was catchy?
I found it impossible to find any album that has captured my attention and imagination like this one has. It's incredibly dark, which I love, and its Poe-inspired story ties together several truly wonderful written songs, punctuated with occasional interludes. I cannot encourage you to buy this enough. I've listened to it well over 100 times. If you buy it, read the short story package of the CD, and then listen to the album in its entirety. It deserves that much. After so many listens, I've reached a point where I listen to songs individually, but it still feels criminal. These songs were made to be listened to in order. The story they tell is gut-wrenching and always gets my imagination going while stirring my emotions. Do yourself a favor and listen to this album. Buy it, share it with your friends, and get them to share with their friends. Alesana has seen a steady increase in popularity, but based on this excellent work alone, they deserve more credit than they have. If I listen to any song on this record outside of the context of this record, it could not get better. There's no song on this. If you're like, oh, I don't care about the story, I'm just listening to this song that hopefully is good, you have fucked up. It's just not that good. This has to be listened to as a full record, and that's it.
Like, there's no other way around it.
There's no other way around it. It's a 46-minute song.
This one comes from AllMusic. Couldn't find a person who wrote this, but they gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Is that better for you, Brian?
I appreciate that at least the critics are listening to the record.
Yeah. The Emptiness finds Alesana delivering an album of solid screamo with a decidedly narrative angle. Musically, the album has everything you'd expect from these guys. Harmonized guitar riffs create a moody canvas for the vocals, which alternate from soaring to tortured and back again to tell their dark tale, with the whole thing punctuated by uplifting choruses and crushing breakdowns. What sets The Emptiness apart from similar albums is the narrative thread that's woven between the songs. Breaking up the album are 4 interludes, narrative sections that help to string the listener along from one act to another. Musically, Alesana has created an album that will be a surefire pleaser for fans of the genre. The music captures a swirling tempest of emotions present in the narrative, almost bordering on theatrical. What might give the album a wider appeal is the fact that Alesana are trying to tell a story, a distinctly emo story, with their album. That's a part of the whole fucking genre. Whether you're a fan or not, the fact that the band was bold enough to attempt to tame the daunting beast that is the concept album should warrant at least one lesson from anyone interested in experiencing this dark musical taste.
You should listen to it because they tried hard.
Yeah.
Well, they're really trying out there. You know, they look like they're having fun.
Yeah, they went through some changes. They're going through it.
Those are our thoughts. Those were some not unpositive reviews of this record. But the last question we have to answer is, would we recommend seeing this record at When We Were Young 2024 in full? The Alesana Emptiness.
If you really love Alesana, sure. I will not be attending that set. I don't have 50 minutes to spare of whatever that's going to be.
I will watch this set if you buy me a drink from the bar. But without some form of transactional exchange, there's nothing you could do to get me to watch this thing. What a fucking mess. Like, I don't know how they perform live. I don't know if they're good. I don't know any idea what the show is like. Like, maybe they put on like this phenomenal show. Maybe they have like all this stage stuff. Maybe they're doing flips. Maybe they're tossing guitars back and forth. There's enough people on stage to do a Slipknot-esque type thing. Who knows? Short of like them doing what can only be described as circus performances, and without some form of transaction that gets me to show up with somebody to watch a bit of this, I will not be seeing any of this. I would only see Alesana if they were a band that was playing with other bands that I absolutely loved. And that is so rare. It's so unlikely to happen. So no. I don't know how to say no harder, but I am finding the ways. You deserve to hear 46 minutes of me ranting about the dumbest shit you ever heard, because I spent way too much of my time doing it for you. That's where we'll be at When We Were Young 2024 during this album. We won't be there. But where will you be? Will you be watching this? Do you agree with us? Did you like this? Did you hate this? Are we just making enemies across the board? Good. And let us know in the comments. Drop a like if you liked it. If you dislike it, I have your phone number and I will call you. Subscribe if you want to see all the rest of our reviews that are coming out. The playlist is available. And of course, we have longer versions of all of these videos up on our membership on YouTube and on our Patreon page. Go and check those out if you're interested. We talk a lot more. We talk a lot more deep about this. We say some stuff we're not going to put in the main video that everyone's going to see. So if you want to check that out, it's all there. But until When We Were Young, until Alesana is done, until the emptiness, we'll see you there.